Dia Fulcherov, welcome back to another episode of How to Be Irish with me, Una Hershey. I have a fantastic guest for you today. You're in for a treat. I've just spent the last week reading his brand new book. It's Leon Diop, and he's got a new book out called Mixed Up. It's all about his journey with being mixed race, growing up in Ireland, and yeah, just his life so far. I was crying reading it. It is an amazing book, and it's really accessible. So I hope that you enjoyed this conversation with Leon today. But aside from that, a little bit of housekeeping. I'd really appreciate it if you could go and rate the podcast 5 out of 5, or forward it on to somebody, or subscribe if it's YouTube, any of those kind of things. Give me a like, anything like that, a follow, all of that kind of good stuff. That's all super helpful for me and the podcast. So yes, thank you so much. Leon Diop is a 31-year-old mixed-race man from Tallaght, Dublin, Ireland. Born to an Irish mother and a Senegalese father, he grew up in a mixed ethnic and religious household. Growing up, he struggled with things like identity and racism, and went through a number of difficulties before coming out the other side. He studied psychology in Maynooth University, where he served 2 years as Students' Union president. He is founder of Black and Irish, an organisation striving to transform Ireland into a global leader in equality and inclusion. And he's also the host of the Black and Irish podcast and co-author of the award-winning book Black and Irish: Legends, Trailblazers and Everyday Heroes. Leon serves on the board of the Childhood Development Initiative of Tallaght and Work Equal. And last year, Leon was named as a European leader with the Obama Foundation. And in this month, November of 2025, Leon published his second book, Mixed Up, I've got it here, An Irish Boy's Journey to Belonging. And this is a memoir of Leon's life growing up as a mixed-race man in Tallaght. And he hopes that this book will help young people become comfortable in their own skin. Céad míle fáilte, Leon. How are you getting on today?
Good, good. Yeah, I'm doing well. Thanks so much. It's busy, but it's all good. How are you?
That's good. I'm great. Thank you for asking. Yeah, it's good to be busy when you're bringing out a book. Am I right?
It is. It is indeed. It can be tough with the amount of kind of requests you need to get back to and stuff, but I think the more the merrier, in my opinion.
Absolutely, more people reading it, and obviously we're in the run up to Christmas now, so we can hope that this one does well. I absolutely loved it, I have to say, and I would be lying if I didn't say I shed a few tears. Like it is, you really. I think you bring us on a journey. You tell us about your life so far. Like as I said, you are 31. So you're still young, but my God, you've lived quite the life. And yeah, I really felt for little Leon, and as he's growing up and he's learning things with his identity and becoming more comfortable with himself. But we'll get into all of that in our conversation today.
Sure.
But I just want to start off by saying thanks for writing this and for sharing your story. I think it's going to be a really special book, and I'm sure it'll help a lot of people. I hope you're very proud of yourself.
No, thanks so much. I am.
Brilliant. So the book explores identities across race, ethnicity, family dynamics, and class. Mm-hmm. And you start off the journey with yourself being born in Tallaght as a mixed race boy. I'd love to hear how that was for you growing up, and what was it like to be mixed race in Tallaght in the 90s and early 2000s?
Yeah, I mean, most of life is or has been positive. Like I've had some wonderful people in my life. I've had some great friends growing up and stuff like that. The only difference is that I had a different color skin, and at times that caused a bit of tension with people that were around me, or invited I think unwelcome experiences, in terms of like racism and stuff like that. So my first experience of racism was when I was out on a field with some friends kicking about football, and before I could even say boo, there was this like other group of older lads on the field, and they would mess with us, like, take the ball, cycle off on one of our bikes, and eventually we get it back. But one of them turned to me one day and was like, what's your name? And I was like, I'm Leon. Obviously I'm terrified. I'm like, the last thing I want to do is to be picked on, but like he was saying it in a kind of warm enough tone. So I was like, oh, I'll respond to it or whatever. And he goes, Leon, you're a black animal. And I remember just feeling like gut punch of my first experience of racism. Like, it was horrendous. My friends around me didn't understand kind of the experience, like the impact of it. And I just wanted to go home. I didn't want to be around anyone. Like, I just wanted to isolate myself and kind of get away from it. But look, not every day was like that. Not every day was, this like kind of dangerous experience. But some days were, unfortunately, and that is enough, I think, to make you grow up outside the home as this kind of like anxious, kind of worrying kid that just wants to fit in and get on with everyone. I mean, inside the home, there was challenges as well. Now again, uh, not every day was this like hellhole, but some days were. My mom is a wonderful woman. Worked very hard to make sure that we had a good life. Was always there to tell me, "You're just Leon. Like, you don't need to worry about the color of your skin and stuff like that." And while I understand the kind of intentions behind that, there was also, I think, not a full understanding of some of the things that I was going through. Maybe me not being able to articulate it fully. And then there was my dad, who is, was this Jekyll and Hyde figure, struggled with substance abuse, came from a different culture, had different expectations of how the family was kind of meant to serve him. And then as well could be quite violent when things weren't going his way, or if he wasn't, getting a drink or smoking or whatever. Those are difficult things to grow up with. Like, those are difficult things for any kid to grow up with. But when you add the mix of the dad being from a different culture, or also facing difficulties on the outside, that can present difficulties that kind of follow you into your kind of teenage years as well.
And my heart really broke for you reading about like the experiences of you with your dad when you were younger. Like, as you mentioned there, he kind of had these mood swings. He would, some days he'd be in great form, you'd describe, and then some days he'd just be in an absolutely awful mood and he'd take it out on you. And it sounds like it was quite difficult for you. Um, did your dad ever talk to you about the fact that you were mixed race or of Senegalese heritage? Like, and if he did, how did he explain that to you?
No, no, he didn't. Unfortunately, so he was someone who was a self-described proud African man, and didn't really take crap from anyone. Like, it was like he would very easily get into altercations with others, or like kind of like wars of words with others, not necessarily over people engaging with racism. When I remember one of my earliest memories of him was someone trying to be racist to him, and him just saying the word "thank you" over and over again, like it very clearly not phasing him. So he was, I think, proud of his identity. I think he was proud of his like religious identity as well. Like, but no, wasn't willing to kind of take the time to sit down and go, Leon, this is what Senegal is like, or was like. This is the history. This is the geography. This is what the people are like. This is what we stand for. These are our values, etc., etc. None of that. Um, the only time I really heard about Senegal was when he was talking about family, or telling me that he had another family there, and that I had older siblings, and one younger one. Um, that was in Senegal, and that again was a huge shock for us. So yeah, I mean, he wasn't really willing to go through my African heritage with me, so that was something I needed to do by myself.
And yeah, I feel like it took you a while to almost get to that point. Like, do you think maybe your relationship with your dad has contributed to maybe your relationship with yourself and your own identity?
Oh, big time. Yeah, absolutely. Because I had a negative relationship with him, I had a negative relationship with that part of me. What I wanted to do was kind of distance myself as far as possible away from my African heritage. Like, I wanted to be, I wanted to be white, and that's a really difficult thing when you just can't be. Uh, so doing things like straightening my hair, or just trying to be one of the lads as much as possible. Um, that's difficult for a young person to deal with. And it was only when I began saying, well, maybe I don't need to do this. Maybe I'm able to lean into my African side too, like, and learn about that and understand myself better. Now again, there was a whole roller coaster of an experience there because I didn't get on with my dad. I didn't get on with my African side of myself. I distanced myself from it. I nearly like not I think hate is a very strong word, but you know, I rejected that part of myself and wouldn't allow myself to kind of really partake in it. To then come in full circle and understanding that me rejecting myself is causing me to engage in really kind of bad behaviors and stuff like that, and um, not put myself in a position where I'm safe or happy. It was definitely a journey. I know that was kind of a long-winded way of answering the question, but it definitely did initially color my experience with my African heritage.
We might talk about it a little bit more later, but you went to Senegal this year, right? So you,
Mm.
as you said yourself, you've kind of had that full circle. You mentioned there your father had another family in Senegal. When did you find out about that?
So it would have been 11 or 12. It was coming towards the end of his time in Ireland, and dropped it casually one day as if it was just like another thing to be talking about, and oh yeah, by the way,
My
I'll
God.
be going to Senegal shortly to see, my other kids. And we were like, what? What you mean? I didn't understand cultural nuances there. I didn't understand that for him, that was a completely normal thing.
Hmm.
To have two wives coming from the culture that he was coming from was fine. So
Hmm.
long as you were able to sustain both. And I know that now, but I didn't know it back then. I thought he was just a bigamist. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Who was kind of hiding stuff, and in a way, he kind of was hiding stuff. Like I think he knew culturally in Ireland, it didn't fly as much. So it was something that came out kind of post my parents splitting and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, really, really disheartening thing at the time because at the time I was the oldest. I was the eldest kid. I was the boss,
Hmm.
of my siblings, and uh, I think something clicked in me that day where I was like, oh, I'm not the oldest, and like, not that I equated being the oldest with the most important, but I had a role. Do you know what I mean? Like I had a role as the eldest to look after my siblings, and now there was older brothers and older sisters, who
Mm.
I felt are above me in the pecking order and stuff like that. Yeah, those are definitely difficult emotions. And yes, I ended up kind of coming full circle with Senegal, which we can discuss in a moment. But there was like steps to allowing that to happen. It wasn't just I woke up one day and I was like, right, I'm gonna begin engaging with um my Senegalese heritage. Like my Senegalese siblings did find me on
Hmm.
social media and began engaging with me, and I did block them all at one point. I did at one point say, I'm not doing this, and kind of cut them all out. So yeah, that was another kind of thing that came from that. Again, I'm allowing my experience with my father to color how I viewed my roots, how I viewed my other siblings. They hadn't a clue what he was doing in Ireland. Do you know what I mean? They didn't have a
Hmm.
clue what he was like. And I think in a way they missed out on a lot too, because he died in France. Like he didn't die over in Senegal with them. He spent a lot, like the majority of his time here. And my siblings are not that much older than me.
Mm.
Like one of my the brother that I'm probably closest to, Aziz, was born in '92. I was born in '94. So
Hmm.
we're quite similar in that, similar age, similar interests and stuff. Um, and they missed out on having a father there too. You know, um, so yeah, I think there's a lot going on there. I
Mm.
think culturally they would see it a bit differently. Like they would never in a million years, regardless of what our father was like, they'd never in a million years kind of say anything about that. And again, I've no idea what he was like in Senegal.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Yeah, wow. I didn't realize you had siblings that were like that close in age to you.
yeah,
Because your mum and your dad met in Tenerife, right? So
mhm.
he was working over there at the time.
Yeah. I think it was quite a common thing men to go out into the world and send money home. And a lot of that still happens
Hmm.
today. It's not uncommon for people to be economic migrants and to send money home. I think it's unfortunate that the world is that way. And I'd much prefer for families to be able to be together and for them to be able to provide from wherever they are. But I recognise that that's not the way the world works.
Hmm. When you were a child, you talk about a lot of different fights and trouble that you used to get into. I suppose you were probably dealing with these difficulties at home through this kind of behavior.
Yeah. So I think for a lot of my life, I was like my father was. He was 6'4" and he was quite lean. Like he was quite an ominous figure. Um, Very solemn whenever he was without a drink or a smoke. Like he had a very serious face, and that was intimidating in and of itself. Even if he never like laid a finger on us, do you know what I mean? Like it was that was scary in and of itself. And then obviously there was his behaviors and stuff like that with us, and like if we stepped out of line, it could get pretty sore pretty quick. That was an earlier part of my life, and then I had kind of difficulties with like people picking on me in school. I then started getting a bit bigger, like started filling out, was playing sports, was at the age of 14, I probably looked about 18 in terms of like my size. I started to get to a point where I was like, hold on, maybe I don't need to like allow this to happen to me anymore. And then I was uh, I got a really bad hiding then in 2008. I was beaten by four men in their 20s when I was 14, and that was very difficult.
And that was in your local area, was
That
it?
was in my local area, yeah.
Hmm.
But that I think was a trigger point for me because my friends were all like, "Oh, well done, Leon! Like you jumped in to help our friend, and like you made sure he didn't get beaten." And I know you took a hiding in the meantime, but like they beat him up. Two of them beat my friend up. Four of them beat me up, and they were saying racist stuff while they were doing it. So there
Mm.
was added layers there. Uh, and then a couple of things started to turn in me. Like I started to get a little bit more like I think my ego was bruised. I'd just taken a really bad beating, and I was actually starting to get sick of it. Do you know what I mean? I was like wanting to be like the man. Um. So yeah, that's I think when fights started to become a more regular thing. Whether it was a disagreement in school, it was like immediately fists were being thrown. And like I was in an area where there was other kids that were also going through their own thing as well. Like it's an area like of high deprivation. There was kids that, looking back now, some of their parents' behaviors weren't okay. And I'm not saying everyone that I was in a fight with had these things. I'm just saying that like violence was common. Fights after school was a common thing. Fights after nightclubs was a common thing. Do you know what I mean? Like it just these things just happened. So over that age range of like say 15 to 19, like yeah, like I was in unfortunately more fights than I can count. That like in school, for example, a guy in my class went into the other changing room um, during PE and bagged all the other lads in the other class, like just turned the bags inside out. Hilarious,
Hmm.
like uh, hilarious thing to see. So I'm laughing, I'm giggling away, but so like one of them got the hint that it was me or thought it was me, so came over and like started pushing me, being like, What you have to do? What are you bagging us for?" So then immediately, like I'm like, you're pushing me. This was the first incident after the beating that I got, and like that fight never should have happened. Should have been. It wasn't me. Like relax. Look. I get that you're annoyed that you're bagged. I've been
Hmm.
bagged too. I get it's frustrating. Like really quickly should have been dealt with, but it was immediately like just switch gone fighting ridiculous behavior.
Mm.
Um. So yeah. So I think that there was a lot of anger and frustration, and a number of different things in my life that was making me quick to anger in an environment where fighting happens a lot. So yeah, I think I wasn't wasn't I don't think I was in the best environment either. I wasn't in a good headspace, but the environment certainly
Mm.
didn't help. But I'm able to look back and see these things now, and that's why I want to like share these stories, although they're difficult for me to rehash, and although there might be people now looking at me going, "Oh, this fella's a scumbag" or whatever, like that's one thing. If that stops two or three kids from fighting in schools, makes a huge difference for me. If two or three kids pick up this book and go, "Oh, I've read about this," it's normal to get angry, but I shouldn't allow it to impact my learning or my school experience so much, or even worse, really harm someone or get really hurt myself.
Mm.
So, yeah, I think that's why I wanted to share those experiences.
Yeah, and you seem to kind of start to turn a corner when it came to your behavior when you went to college and you chose to study psychology in Maynooth. Was there any reasoning behind that?
Yeah, so the reason why I wanted to study psychology was, well, to be honest, I wanted to become a brain surgeon. My aunt Lisa had a serious brain injury in 2005, and that made me want to work with the brain in some way, shape, or form. So I had medicine in UCD, medicine in Trinity, and uh, psychology through science in Maynooth, the third option. Um, I did the HPAT, didn't go too well. I then was offered psychology through science in Maynooth. I learned that it was through the HEAR scheme. Felt really disappointed that I got in through the HEAR scheme because it was like, I didn't want to hand me out, is what I thought at the time. Or
And
it
what's
just
the
felt,
HEAR scheme for
the
anyone
HEAR
who doesn't
scheme is the
know?
higher education access route. So it's a route
Okay.
to education if you come from like disadvantaged areas, or if you
Hmm.
come from like lower socioeconomic backgrounds or whatever. And then there's a kind of sister route for students with disabilities called the Disability Access Route to Education, or DARE. So here and there. And I came in through the HEAR scheme. I wanted to work with the brain because of my aunt Lisa. But you mentioned turning a corner, and I think that was certainly going to Mini changed my life 100%, because I was still going down a bad path. Even though I don't think I was a bad kid. I was putting myself in situations, or I was in environments where anything could happen at any time. And because I was a big lad, I was able to get into fights. You hear these stories about like a punch that goes wrong, or you getting punched wrong or whatever, and then all of a sudden your life is completely different. So I'm in Maynooth. I'm having a great time. I'm meeting lots of different people. I am getting involved and engaged in different things. I'm getting involved in like societies. I'm meeting people from the countryside. I'm meeting people from the other side of the city. I'm actually I'm being taken out of Tallaght a
Mm.
lot. Even though I'm still living at home, I'm couch surfing for a lot of my first year because I'm going out so much. And I basically make this deal with a lad that I was on the football team, the college football team with, that I'll get his drink during the week if he allows me to sleep on his couch.
Wow,
And
he
it was
got a
a
great deal.
sweet deal. I got like student accommodation for the price of a bottle of Tomova of Aldi. Like, you know what I mean? Which I probably shouldn't be promoting, but look, it is what it is. But you know, like life was different. I was like, you'd be walking out of the club going, right, who's going to fight now? And like, I saw one fight in my entire time in it.
Hmm.
My entire time, I was there for 7 years. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like that was mad. Do you know what I mean? So there's it was a completely different world, and like I loved it. I loved being there. I enjoyed meeting new people. I was having a great time. But then I'd come back to Tallaght, like where I was working. I was working in lifestyle sports at the time, and I'd find myself getting into really silly situations again. Now, another thing is I was going out a lot. I was going out there, and I was going out here in terms of nights out and stuff. So it wasn't great. I ended up failing my first year because I was having too much fun. And yeah, I mean, it was after I failed my first year I realized, oh, this is actually serious. Like if I want to do well in college, I need to pull my socks up, and I need to focus. I need to get my stuff in on time. No one's going to be there to babysit me. I actually need to do it. And then I had a big incident in Tallaght where I was almost killed, or I was almost sent to prison, and that was a Leon. You are not ever doing this ever again, and I didn't.
Mm.
I went a different way.
We're able to you were able to have the perspective in that moment. You talk about that really dangerous situation. This is the one where you're driving the car with the smashed in windows, right? Yeah, and you're trying to
I
get
mean,
back
when
to
you
this
describe it like
party.
that, yeah, I think the wind blowing can often change your mind. When it's
Yeah.
coming in through the side window. But yeah, no, I had a huge change of heart when I was hiding behind wheelie bins, hoping lads didn't find me and kill me. Yeah,
Mm,
that was. I don't think there's any greater motivator than fear.
yeah.
Uh, and what I felt that day was fear. I'd never run so fast in my entire life. Uh, my heart was pounding out my chest. Um, I don't think I have time to rehash the whole story, but it's a story where I very quickly could have ended up in prison or dead.
Mm,
And it's tough to kind of go back on these things. But again, I want to show people that things can change very quickly, things can happen, and it's important that you're getting yourself out of dangerous situations and dangerous environments as quickly as possible. And that if there's something that's good, that's working for you, that you're enjoying, stick to that. You know.
hmm
Um. So yeah, but I think there is a point that I want to make. I don't think there's a greater motivator to do something or to get away from something than fear. Like if you're afraid, you can very quickly make decisions that will benefit you. But I also think you need to have a vision to step into. You need to have something that you can step into. And that for me was Maynooth. I was able to
mm,
step away from that situation because I was able to step into something else. Whereas I know there's a lot of young people out there and they might not want to get in. They might not want to be in the situations that they're in or around people that they're around. I'm not like again. I don't want to say that all the people that I was around were bad. It was just the environment that we were in. Bad things could happen. But they don't. There might be kids that they want to get out of these situations, but they don't have anywhere to go or they don't know what
mm,
to turn to. And that for me is what we need to be doing. I think everyone is quick to kind of bash the young people that are now getting engaged in things like the riots and stuff like that, and the protests that are happening in the city, primarily against kind of iPad centres. And it would be great for them to step away from that. But where are we going to bring them? We can't be telling these kids stop doing that. But we're not going to do anything else to help you. We're just going to punish you. I think what we need to be doing is creating environments that young people can step into that can give them the best opportunity to thrive. And I was very lucky in this situation. I recognize that. I recognize the privilege that I have when I'm talking about my own story, that I had something else to step into. So yeah, I know I don't want that to get picked up the wrong way, and that I'm like excusing anyone going out and engaging with these kind of like protests or riots or whatever. I don't. What I'm trying to say is that it's not enough for us to just punish and chastise. We need to give hope and alternatives for people to step into.
absolutely. I mean, it just goes back to the point that these issues are always systematic, and the system doesn't support these people to, as you said, redirect their energy elsewhere. They don't
Yeah.
have other places to go. They don't have other options. And lucky for you, as you said, you were able to step into Maynooth. You did. You
Mm.
went on to serve 2 years as student union president, and that's where I met you. And I know you were very much loved by all, a very like well-known figure at that time. Um, and then after that, with this newfound, I suppose, confidence in yourself, it seems, anyways, you went out into the world. You left Maynooth, and you founded in 2020. You founded Black and Irish. Could you tell us a bit about what inspired you to start the Black and Irish movement?
Yeah. So I do think I need to take you back to throughout the years I was growing up or finding myself in these different situations. I was never really standing up for myself, and I was having a really negative experience. And through all the things that I was going through, I did learn to stand up for myself. I learned to fight for myself, and I also learned to create better experiences for myself. And I think by doing those things, I was able to say, well, maybe I can do this for others. So that was what made me get involved with the student union initially as the events and promotions officer, and then go on to be student president. And that I think it really did just build on from there. I left the student movement with a great sense of confidence in myself to be able to go on and do other things. And it was only God, what was it? It was only about 9 months after leaving the student movement, or 11 months after leaving the student movement, that I started Black and Irish. So yeah, I mean, Black and Irish came about because I was in a place where I felt good about standing up for myself. I'd gone through like a Lewis court case and stuff like that. I'd gone through
Mm.
moments where I stood up for myself and stood up for others and stuff like that, and I was feeling good. And also, I'd done a lot of work in helping other people's experiences. So when I saw the death of George Floyd, or sorry, the murder of George Floyd, I knew something needed to be done. I knew I wanted to do something. I walked up and down my back garden for hours at a time. I penned a letter to George Floyd's parents. Wanted a, I wanted somehow, some way for there to be a positive to come out of this. And yeah, I mean, there was a massive movement kicking off around the world. The Black Lives Matter movement was talking about the black experience, it was talking about anti-black racism, but it was very focused on the US,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a lot of people highlighting cheerily the fact that we don't have racism in Ireland. And I had experienced so much at this point. I was like, when I was starting to see some of these posts that people were putting out, being like, thank God this is in America and thank God we don't have this here. I was furious because I'd experienced racial discrimination. I'd experienced casual racism. I'd experienced racial violence. I knew it was here. So I wanted to tell my story. I wanted to help other people tell their stories. And that's why we decided to set up a Instagram account where people could talk about their experiences of being black in Ireland, and being black and Irish. And very quickly it took off. We had, I think, about 150 stories sent in to us within the first couple of weeks and about 20,000 followers. It showed that people were ready to talk. It showed that people were ready to listen. Um, and we were getting a ton of data, or a ton of qualitative data that we could use, that where we were like, okay, well, we see that there's big issues happening in schools around overt racism and not knowing
Mm.
how to deal with it, or not knowing where to turn to. And then when people leave school, that's when racism tends to change. You're not dealing with as much name calling and stuff like that, but you are dealing with, denial of access to services. You're dealing with more systemic stuff. So, I mean, it was only natural that we went on and formed an organization around that and began challenging these things, and I think it was only through everything that I experienced, through all through the racism I experienced, through the identity struggles I had, by overcoming those and saying, it's not enough to for us to be able to see racism and kind of just say that it's bad. We need to fight. We need to fight back. And then as well, finding my way in terms of being like a Senegalese Irish man, I knew that I was in a position where I could now begin to try and help others. And other people that I was working with had also kind of gone through similar stuff as well. So yeah, that's how Black and Irish came about, and that's why I think it was right for me at the time to start it.
And since you did start it, so that's like over 5 years ago now. What
Yeah,
what changes have you seen, if any, in that time? Because I know it has been quite a tumultuous time
it has.
in Ireland.
I think a lot has changed. The majority of people I think in Ireland at the time were non-racist. They were people who didn't think about racism. Racism didn't affect them. They wouldn't engage in racism knowingly. They might unconsciously engage in racism from time to time, but racism wasn't top of their mind. They weren't ready to engage in it. They weren't really ready to fight it. Some people like myself were anti-racist. We understood racism. We didn't want racism to happen, and then others were racist. I think over the last 5 years, what we've seen is a polarization. We've seen people
Mm.
move to both extremes, and now I'm gladly able to say that the anti-racism movement in Ireland is huge. That there is a lot of people that you know abhor racism. So many schools are ready to engage with us. So many organizations are ready to engage with us. So many community groups are ready to engage with us. But unfortunately, we also have other things happening in our society. We have, you, you, you know, uh, we have a housing crisis, which is taking people's sense of security away from them. It's causing a lot of frustration. We have various geopolitical crises around the world, which is meaning that a lot more people need to move to places that are safe. A lot of people are feeling insecure about their future. A lot of people are currently living in deprivation, and that is causing people to feel a sense of fear. Again, and as I said, there's no greater motivator than fear.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when fear gets played upon, and when you have these kind of agitators and kind of far right figures who want to get as many people over to their side, one of the easiest things that they can do is play on those fears and go to those fears saying, all these problems that you're facing is because that, these people that are moving in down the road, it's their fault. It's their fault that your grocery bill is so high. That's the reason why you can't get a home. That's the reason why the streets are less safe. That's the reason why violence against women is on the rise. When it's just not the case. The reason why we have a housing crisis is because we have had decades of policy which has handed the responsibility of housing to someone else, and they have not built houses for the good of the state. They've built houses for profit.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the other side, we have things like rising violence. We've rising racism. We've rising violence. We've rising gender based violence. That is because we have figures in the world who are promoting misogynistic views
Mm-hmm.
and are coaxing a lot of young men in particular to engage in these behaviors and make them feel like they're normal, or to form attitudes, that will make them go down this route. The people, the main people that we need to worry about, and I want to talk about this for a moment because I was at Dingle Literary Festival at the weekend, and I was listening to a great talk by Pádraig O'Rourke on the rise, not the rise of fashion, but like fascism in Ireland and stuff like that. And he's like, all these figures who are in front of the camera, spouting the nonsense, saying all these things, they're actually not the main ones you need to worry about. It's the people behind them in
Mm.
balaclavas, or it's the people behind their screens taking this message in and now beginning to form really dangerous attitudes, which lead to dangerous behaviors, which lead to dangerous actions. That's what we really need to be worried about. So of course, what we need to do is obviously stop these people or put out kind of counter narratives. But we need to do a lot of work with the people who have taken this message in and who've fallen so far down the rabbit hole that you can't even see them anymore.
Yeah.
And God knows where they're going to pop up. So for me, what's important is that we're like providing obviously alternative narratives. We're providing different spaces for people to step into, stepping out of the fear into something different, and that we're giving people an opportunity to make their way back.
Mm-hmm.
And that we're giving them an opportunity. That for me is what we need to be doing.
Do you feel scared about the future of this, Leon?
I Yeah, yeah, I do. I feel fear, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I would be, I think, stupid not to feel fear, just because I can see what's happening. Now I do need to caveat that with my faith will always outweigh my fear. My
Mm-hmm.
faith that we can turn these things around. My faith that we can make a better world. My faith that we can change things for the better for everyone. I have that. People can call me stupid. People can call me naive. I don't care. My faith will always outweigh my fear. But I do have fear because at the moment there is a lot going on. Right? We have we have migration, or like kind of like we have these crises around kind of migration and people needing to move for safety. We have the rise of artificial intelligence and its use at the moment in terms of being able to
Mm-hmm.
put out really dangerous messages, misinformation, disinformation, and stuff like that. I kind of group all that into one. But AI in and of itself is greater again because its capabilities, what what that can do. We've conflict. We've a lot of conflict in the world at the moment, and we have uh, people who are in very dangerous situations, and people who are capable of doing very dangerous things. And then we have our climate. We have rising temperatures, rising sea levels, people needing to move again. parts of the world that are going to become uninhabitable, and what are we going to do when 20 million people or 100 million people at one time need to move? Of course, those things scare me. I feel fear, because one of them is enough. But what's happening is that we're seeing a convergence now of all of these things at once. And I worry when I see what has happened in Palestine and when I see what's happened in Sudan. I worry about humanity and what we're going to allow to happen to people when we get into these situations. But I know that there are other people out there like me and like you who want to make the world a better place and want to make it a place where all of us can feel safe and all of us can, get on with one another. So yeah, I'm scared, but I'm also I'm assured that there are people who will fight, and we'll fight like hell. We will fight very, very, very hard, to change these things. And with some of the people that I know that are out there, I think we've got a good shot.
Oh, absolutely agree. And I think it's important to be cognizant of the fact that there are far more good than bad, and the bad are just using some techniques and some technologies, as you mentioned. I think there's been a change in Twitter or X where
Mm.
they allow you to see where different posts have come from or
I've
different
come
people are
from, yeah,
posting from, and they were able to see that a lot of the hashtag Ireland is full is coming from the US and the UK. Like
of
it's,
course,
which I
yeah.
mean, we kind of knew that already, but it just reaffirms that, like, as you said, there that the people out there, there's good people out there, and as long as we come together and we fight, then we should win.
We will. I believe in the good story. I believe in the good outcome. I believe
Hmm.
in the happily ever after. And you need to have that vision.
You
You
do.
know, um, because without that vision or without that kind of creative imagination to create a better world, what are we fighting for? Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like, what am I doing
Hmm.
if I don't believe? So yeah, I think we can win.
Absolutely. We might try and close the loop or the circle. So we mentioned earlier about your visit to Senegal this
Yeah,
year, and you got to meet your brothers and sisters. How was that for you? And I suppose coming to terms with your own identity as a mixed race person.
yeah. Meeting my siblings was an incredible thing. It was my first time in Dakar. It was a beautiful city. It's like a paradise. It's chaotic. There's a lot of people trying to sell you stuff. I was in the back of a taxi traveling to a market when a fella came up to the taxi trying to sell me a full length mirror. I'm not, I'm not that egotistical. Do you know what I mean? I did consider it, but no, it was a really profound experience. I loved it. Um, I felt like I closed the loop. I felt like I went through this thing where I had not gone out with my father, blocked that side of myself out. Didn't want to learn about Africa or Senegal. Didn't care about it. My family members tried to contact me. I blocked them. And I was shutting it down. I was like suppressing it. And slowly but surely I began to unpick it in terms of like saying, all right, well, actually, I'm going to learn about Senegal. I'm not going to learn about its history and how it went from, an empire to a colony to a confederation to, a quasi democratic state as it is now, to learn about its like political leaders and stuff like that, and its geography and its demographics, and the kind of domino effect had begun from there. So then I began to like unblock my family members, and then I began to accept their messages, and then I began writing back, and then I began having calls and stuff like that. And I remember my eldest brother Mustafa called me one day, and like he doesn't have a word of English except "I'm very happy," So so he's ringing me, and he's just like, "I'm very happy," and I'm like, "I'm very happy too," and that's all we said to each other for like 30 minutes, and then he just turned the phone to watch a football match with him, so we just kind of sat there and watched a football match together, like. So that was mad, and then we made the decision. Me and Adam, we said, we're like, look, we're gonna go. We went to Senegal, and I remember meeting my brothers for the first time, and like just feeling so proud and so happy. these are my family. These are my, well, this is my older brother, my younger brother. you
Mm-hmm.
know. So I was just so full of love at that time. And then we got a taxi to their house. I got to meet my sisters. I've got two twin sisters who are older than me, and they're both so amazing. Like I got like they're very similar to, like, so me, Adam, and Megan. Like they're my full siblings, and we have different characteristics. Like, do you know what I mean, in terms of like being outgoing or being introverted. Adam will be quite introverted, and then Megan is mad. My sister Megan is like, she's just mad, you know. And then like they were showing similar traits in some ways, in terms of, like, I could hear my sister in Dakar. I could hear her all the way down the street before, she even got into the house. You
Mm-hmm.
just hear it, like, and then they showed me like their businesses and stuff like that, and it was just wonderful. And I remember the hug that I got when I got out of the car when I landed at the house. My sister, uh, Ewa, ran over to me, and I've never been hugged like this in my entire life. She just wrapped her arms around me and was like crying into my shoulder, and I was like, "Oh my god! Like this is a big moment. Like this is a big
Mm.
moment for my family. Like it's incredible." So yeah, it's really been a beautiful journey getting to meet them, and like, I'm hoping that they'll come visit me in Ireland, and then I hope to travel back to Senegal again,
Mm-hmm.
as my father is buried in Touba, which is the holy city of Senegal. It's about 200 kilometers away from Dakar. I found this out while I was there. I thought I was going to be able to go to his grave and kind of close the loop, as we were
Mm.
saying. But no, I was like, look, I'll go to the grave tomorrow. And they were like, oh, no, no. The grave is like 200 kilometers inland, and it's like a desert
Mm.
climate. So it's like 41 degrees in there at the moment. So I was like, yeah, next time. We'll go next time. So yeah, so me and Adam, we had a great time. We got to grow closer together as brothers as well. Not that we were distant, but like
Mm.
we learned a lot about each other as well, which was really, really nice.
Yeah, I mean that's a very special moment to share together, like, and I'm sure for your other siblings as well. Like, it sounds like they just gave you nothing but unconditional love, which is, I mean, what else could you ask for?
They did, they did. They gave us a lot of love, and we gave them like a lot of love too. We sat down and we listened to them, and we heard what their lives were like, and I got to meet their kids and stuff like that. And I'm a big Manchester United fan. My sister Ewa married an Egyptian man called Abdou Salah. You can probably guess where this is going. They have a son, and they call the son Mohammed. So I've got a nephew called Mo Salah. Which me as a United fan and Adam as a Chelsea fan is a very difficult thing to hear. But these are stories that I had actually closed out for myself
Mm.
for the space of like 10 years,
Mm.
and I'm like, now obviously hindsight is 2020. Now I'm like, God, why did I do that? Like, but and that's I suppose why I wanted to write the memoir.
Mm.
There's a lot of people who are going through situations like that. There's a lot of people who are closing off parts of their life because of their relationship with one person or two people. And like, look, whatever you want to do in your life, it's your life. You can do whatever you want. But one thing I will say is opening up these worlds can be so profound. And if you find that they're harmful, you can shut it down. You can say, no, actually, I'm not ready, or no, this is not for me, and that's fine. But give yourself the chance, because
Mm.
I had no idea just the whole different side of life that was going to open up to me when I said I was going to engage with this part of myself. And honestly, it's one of the greatest things I've ever done.
You're very brave, Leon. Fair play to you. Fair play to you.
Thanks.
I'll wrap up the interview with our final question.
Yeah.
I suppose, in light of everything we've spoken about today, Leon, what does it mean to you to be Irish?
What it means to me to be Irish is it's not about the color of your skin. It's not about the religion you follow. It's not about these characteristics. What it's about is the content of your character. It's about your, I think, love for Irish culture. I think it's about your love for the land. I think it's about being able to tell a story, enjoying the crack, respecting one another. above all, I think it's about understanding yourself and understanding your history. I think Ireland is so rich in its history, and like there's a lot of hardship there. There's a lot of struggle. There's a lot of fight. But again, with that, there's a lot of resilience. There's lots of stories. There's lots of art. There's lots of culture, and those are the things that you need to value. To be Irish. So I think being Irish is about recognizing your place in the world. It's about recognizing yourself on this island and recognizing other people's place as well.
Gurb Mila Mila Mahagut. Where can our listeners find your book?
So listeners can find the book in any good bookshop, I hope. Eason's, Dubray, any independent bookseller.
Yeah.
Books Upstairs.
That's where I got mine. Yeah.
And you can get it online as well. You can get it from the publisher, Little Island, who have just been an absolute wonderful partner on this journey of writing. And yeah, you can also get it on Amazon, but don't get it from Amazon.
Yeah.
If you can get it here in Ireland, and
yeah,
get it from a bookseller or the publisher. But
brilliant.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. What's next for you, Leon? Another book?
God, yeah. Well, no, there is actually another book coming out in April. It's Black and Irish Awesome Icons. It's a version of Black and Irish, but for children. It's a picture book illustrated by Grace Enamaku. So I'm very excited about that. And I think I do think that there's going to be a step change in my work now following the release of this. I do think that storytelling is going to be a key part of what I do going forward. I think that it's something that brings us closer together. I think it's something that we can all use to build empathy within ourselves, and that's something I'd like to give to younger people. I think younger people are our future, and that's where I'm going to be shifting a lot of my kind of activism attention to.
Brilliant stuff. They're very lucky. Gurmila Mila Mahagut, and thank you so much for your time today. Best of luck.
Thanks so much for having me.
Slán. Thanks a million for tuning into today's episode with Leon Diop. It was a treat to chat to Leon about his life, and I really appreciate him taking the time and opening up. And Gurmila Mila Mahagut. And thank you again for tuning in to How to Be Irish. We are not far off now, the end of season 2. If you've missed any episodes, be sure to go back and listen to them. I've got a real good mix in there. We've got everything from stone lifting to Irish social history to pop culture. Yeah. Is there any other topics you think I should cover? I wouldn't mind covering a little bit more of sport, food, history, maybe some more mythology as well might be on the cards. But anyways, thank you so much as always for listening. And tell a friend about this podcast. It really grows through word of mouth. And also, if you can just give me a 5-star rating, that would be really, really helpful, whether you're listening to this on Spotify or whatever. I really, really appreciate that. All right. Have a fantastic week, and I'll be chatting to you soon. Slán.